What's up, and welcome back to Nowstalgia Pod, your weekly look at what's going on in pop culture. My name is Pat Sheehan. I'm here with my co-host Dave Martinson. Dave, how about that young Dumbledore trailer, bro?
Yo, Dumbledore, man, immediately more captivating than Eddie Redmayne. My God.
Yo, Jude Law, sex headmasters. Like, I need it. I need
Well,
it.
he's not a headmaster yet. Just the
I know. He's just a professor,
transfiguration prof. But yes, I agree.
Yeah, we're gonna give some more thoughts on that and the Fantastic Beasts future. But before we start, I just wanted to ask everybody, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go to iTunes, download, subscribe there, leave a rating and review, and also go to SoundCloud or wherever you get your podcasts to give us some feedback and support the podcast. We appreciate you. So, what young Dumbledore trailer dropped? What, last Tuesday? I think it was.
Yeah,
Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah, it was
something
midweek.
like that. And it captivated Twitter for a while. A lot of buzz around it.
Yes.
What were your thoughts on the
There's a
trailer?
lot.
Anything stand out to you?
Things stood out positively. I'm very excited for the movie actually because of Dumbledore's presence. It just seems like this story, the second Fantastic Beasts movie, taking place in like the 40s or whatever it is. So 60 years before Harry Potter, as everyone knows. That time is really interesting in Harry Potter lore, and it looks like from like the images and the themes, it sounds like we're going to get a lot of like Deathly Hallows lore. Because as we know, Dumbledore and Grindelwald, when they were together, but even after they grew apart, they were both very obsessed with the Hallows, and it's just, I mean, some of the coolest stuff regarding the Harry Potter universe. The Elder Wand will probably show up at some point in this franchise, but I'm just intrigued to see that's starting to happen. What are we going to see with young Dumbledore? Just because we're just fleshing out cool backstory. It's going to be fun. Unfortunately, it seems like Newt Scamander is still the vehicle for this, and the movies are still called Fantastic Beasts. So I don't know if we can get rid of Newt.
I wonder if as this particular set of movies moves forward, if Fantastic Beasts will become more of a metaphor, for like the stories about the people in it, especially Grindelwald, going from like being this I don't know, friend of Dumbledore, supposedly, I guess assuming a good person, or at least having not evil intentions, to going to be this villain in this universe. I was definitely disappointed that Newt Scamander is still going to be the driving force, because pretty much what I remember taking away from the first one was just how kind of lame he was as a protagonist.
Right.
But I mean, I think if Jude Law and Johnny Depp land in their roles this time, it will make a lot more sense for them to just keep moving more and more towards that. So it'll really depend on their chemistry, and Law looks like he's going to be a great Dumbledore. I'm wicked excited.
Oh yeah, I mean, Jude Law's on a great run right now. Obviously, anyone who's been listening to Nostalgia for a while now knows our love for the young from early 2017. Check our reviews on that. SoundCloud Nostalgia Pod. But yeah, Jude Law's going to chew that shit up. And a young Dumbledore, we don't have any like frame of reference for what kind of character that would be. So he has a lot of freedom, I think, in that regard. Sure. And this is another screenplay from J.K. Rowling. She did write the first one, directed by David Yates, who directed Fantastic Beasts 1, as well as every Harry Potter movie since Order of the Phoenix. So David Yates is basically like the Russo brothers are in-house talent that Warner Brothers uses for this franchise, and I guess Rowling trusts him. I don't know if you saw this on Twitter. There was some buzz from the Harry Potter heads about that really nice looking scene of a bunch of, I think, 3 people. I think they were the Ministry people that were going to talk to Dumbledore. They apparate onto us for when you first see the castle. And it's explicitly said in the book, there's like special charms. You cannot apparate anywhere on the grounds of Hogwarts. Apparently, it's always been the case. And everyone was flipping the shit about David Yates. And I'm like, I hear you, but J.K. Rowling wrote the fucking screenplay. So there's obviously a reason that they're going to retcon in or make up, So I don't know. I just thought it was like, let's finish the thought here, guys. J.K. is involved. Like, what do you think?
it's just such a little. I mean, this is very typical for fans of any franchise. Like,
Yeah.
you need to stay so tight to the canon, and that was the whole thing with Star Wars too. Is that people were mad that it was moving away from canon in certain ways, but it's like, who the fuck cares? Like, it's such a little thing, and if it drives the plot forward and it tells a good story, like, I can let go of like little things like that popping up. But yeah, you got those diehard Harry Potter fans who are gonna need everything to connect and make sense, and you can't go against anything. You're gonna take some liberties, and uh, spoiler alert: Harry Potter is fiction, so you can make a lot of this shit up because it's all been made up before.
What do you call it? I'm excited to see Zoe Kravitz as
Yeah.
Letta Lestrange. Obviously, Bellatrix Lestrange, infamous villain, the Lestrange family, much like Sirius Black, the Black family, notorious like pure blood people. So I'm sure she'll be up to no good. So Dan Fogler is back. He was Jacob Kowalski, that like bumbling guy who they obliterated his memory. They wiped his memory at the end of Fantastic Beasts 1, but he's still back in this one. So I'm curious if he's still like, in the gang, and now he'll be like more comic relief. I don't know. It almost seemed like they wiped his memory as if they were planning to remove his character from the story. I don't know. Again, it's probably a minor thing, but something that stood out to me.
Yeah, I could imagine it's probably played for laughs. Like, Newt finds him again, and like he's like, "Oh, this seems so familiar." Like, I could see that being a running joke or something like that.
And also, I remember leading up to Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, we were kind of excited to see the American Wizarding World, something we hadn't seen, of course.
Yeah.
But this one's back to the UK and Paris, and I think that's actually going to be cool because I feel like the vibe of the Wizarding World is so British. It's just so much about everything is just so English about it that getting back over into Europe, I think, will probably be for the best.
Yeah, and you think about like when they have the Triwizard tournament and all the different schools come and they all seem to be from different places. I always wondered about those schools and what those were like. So seeing more about like the European scene in the magical world is going to be really interesting. And Paris is such a beautiful setting, just in general. It will be really cool to see how they kind of tie things together with that. But yeah, Young Dumbledore trailer, a lot to talk about. Very excited. When's the release date for that?
November sometime.
So we got some time. I'm sure we'll be talking about it more as more things pop up in the trailers. Something that kind of dropped. I guess I wasn't expecting it. I'm not sure if it was on your radar. Lil Dicky, Freaky Friday dropped this past Thursday with a single and the music video to go along with it, featuring Chris Brown. Of course, if you've seen the music video, this makes a lot more sense. What was your take on this? I was very surprised to see this from Lil Dicky, but it was blowing up. This was huge.
Yeah, I think when I saw it last, I saw this morning, it had like 13 million views already. I'm sure that's climbing quick. Yeah, it was vaguely on my radar just because he had said earlier that he was going to come back musically this year. His big breakout, Save That Money, that was 2015. So it's nice. Wow. Chunk of time to wait. I mean, obviously he's been doing fine. I know he's in what is it, the Trojan commercial, right? Like he's been around doing stuff, but not too much musically, honestly. He did that I'm Brain EP last year, which was really bad. It just wasn't funny. And I think that kind of like, I'm kind of torn on this song. I think what do you call it? Freaky Friday with Chris Brown, right? So I'm torn on it because on one hand, there's funny stuff in there. It's a lot of classic, like Lil Dicky being just the self-deprecating guy that he is, right? That's kind of his brand. Sonically, this is a Chris Brown song, arguably one of the better Chris Brown songs in a while, but it doesn't feel like a Lil Dicky song. Watching the music video feels more like a skit. I don't know if this is a single you can just put on. And before the video goes into the song, when they're at that dinner scene, like the guy's making fun of Lil Dicky for not being a real rapper, and I kind of hope he like plays into that, kind of like Ugly God does in traditional rap scene. You're a gag rapper. You make jokes. Let's drop the professional rapper shit you were doing on your debut album and just go full Lonely Island, because that's what you do. And I'm just not sure if that's what he actually is going to do. He's kind of trying to play the middle again. But the song itself, I think, is pretty catchy. I think it's funny. It's a lot better than anything from last year.
Yeah, it's funny, and it brings in cameos at the end. I mean, Ed Sheeran's in it, and then DJ Khaled and
Kendall.
was it Rihanna?
No, Kendall Jenner.
Kendall Jenner, that's right. So there's definitely some funny elements to it. I thought this was really well done. The music video was great as well. He actually does, I think, a pretty good job with most of his music videos to
Mhm.
kind of add stuff. Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of people talking about him being like more Lonely Island, kind of like to your point, more Lonely Island than a legitimate rapper. The first person I kind of thought of was Weird Al. Like when I was
Yeah,
watching this, I was just kind of like,
that's not an insult. That is a
no,
compliment. Yeah,
yeah, I know. I think some people find Weird Al to be like just oh, he just does parodies of the songs. But Weird Al actually has had probably the most, I don't know, long and successful career
oh yeah,
of any artist I can think of at the moment, other than like the Rolling Stones, or like the
over
Grateful
like
Dead.
20 years, right? He's
Yeah,
been at it forever.
and he's touring right now. I
Mhm.
mean, the thing is, if people were expecting Lil Dicky to ever become like a Logic or something like that, they just didn't really know who he was, because this
Yeah,
is just who he is. He's a funny guy. He's almost more comedic than anything at this point.
right. And I guess that's kind of the thing too, is he was on the XXL cover
Hmm.
in spring
Right.
2016. And that kind of complicates it, right? Because that's supposed to be a
Sure.
cosign of true hip hop, you know? Um, but he said it himself that he saw hip hop as a way to just grow his career and his, outlet for his comedy,
Yeah.
and that he's always had aspirations for, TV movies and film and TV shows.
Hmm.
So I think that kind of will rub purists the wrong way because he's not like about that hip hop shit, which is fine, but don't occasionally chip your toe in and pretend you are. It's fine. Just commit to what you're really doing.
I don't think it's that egregious though. Like if he
Yeah,
has, his bars are pretty good. It's not like he's writing these really lame ass.
I did think the N-word joke was pretty poor taste
Sure.
considering he's a white guy in hip hop.
Also,
Um,
I think
I didn't like that at all.
Chris Brown feels like a poor taste. Like pick a
Mhm.
different celebrity. I feel like, I don't know.
Yeah, I saw a lot of tabloids were saying like outrage for Ed Sheeran and Kendall Jenner working with Chris Brown. I'm like, working? It was a
Yeah,
cameo. They
and
were working with Lil Dicky and Chris
right,
Brown.
exactly.
Like, relax.
They were never all together in the same place. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. But
Stupid.
yeah. We'll see what he comes out with next. Obviously, this is the start of a rollout for Dicky, so I'm very curious to see what this album entails.
Yeah, I think, like you said, his last album didn't land very well, so this can only be good for him. Someone that you brought to my attention today, which I was surprised because I usually follow this artist pretty closely. Been working on an album, Up in the Woods, Man in the Woods in Wyoming, dog. Kanye West,
The Man of the Woods. That's
Man
right.
of the Woods. I can't wait to see those ads where he's like chopping wood or lighting a fire out in the wilderness.
Yeah. If you don't follow at Team Kanye Daily on Twitter, you should, or at least check out their account because they've been reporting about all the happenings in Wyoming. Kanye is holed up in Jackson Hole, right by the famous ski area, and he's not. I mean, he's not like he told anyone this, but he's working on his next album, similar to when he worked on my beautiful dark twisted fantasy in Hawaii. He's having everyone come to him. He's in his zone. He's got his space, and he's working. And the list of names that he has working with him is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And that's what's getting everyone so excited because with social media, with Instagram stories and, Snapchats and tweets and stuff, or celebrity sightings from the paparazzi who are now camping out in Jackson Hole, or just the fans that take pictures and then their pictures get posted on the Kanye Daily Twitter. Everyone's getting spotted. I mean, everyone's blowing up now because Drake recently got there. Which, I mean, they were together on Glow on T-Lop, so that makes sense. That, I mean, they had a great friendship. But Travis Scott, The Dream, Kid Cudi, usual suspects, Mike Dean, Nas was there, King Louis, Tony Williams, Plain Pat, Jaleel Beats, ton of producers are there. Drake even brought people with him. He brought one of his engineers, some of his songwriters. Pierre Bourne's there. He made Magnolia for Cardi. A$AP Bari was spotted. Wonder Girl, like there's a lot of people there, and it's just really exciting because it seems like, we're in the next stage of that for the next album. I don't know if it'll come this year. I probably wouldn't bet on that.
No,
But
I was gonna say I don't think this is close. I think it's probably April 2019 actually at this point.
Yeah. We're in sessions right now. Like they're working, they're writing, they're making the beats, and obviously we know how much of a perfectionist he is. He literally wouldn't stop changing Life of Pablo, and he kept delaying it because he wasn't finished with it. And he really still didn't finish it. Some of the mixes were a little off, but so we know it's not anytime soon. But it's just exciting to know that it is in fact happening. And I believe his hair is pink. So
good.
There's that.
The Kanye hair storyline is so like stupid at this point, but there was like that rumor I think earlier in maybe end of last year, I guess it was, where he was like holed up in the mountains and was recording, and then it seemed like that kind of fell off, and he was spotted in LA, and maybe that was just like a one-off thing. But this seems like you said, with so many people rolling through and producers and videographers, this is really happening, which is really exciting because I mean, after Kanye's last album and his famous mental breakdown, there was some speculation maybe he's going to focus more on his clothing line and really try to move away from music because it's too stressful, and he doesn't really need to make more music at this point to solidify his legacy. But he always has this kind of spectacle going on. Like the recordings for My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, like you mentioned, are like legendary with like what would Wu-Tang Clan do up on the board above the door or something like that. Like it's always I can't wait, especially because Drake, Nas, like that's a star-studded list of cameos that's on deck. So hopefully, only good things to come.
Yeah, apparently, like all like the TMZ sources and stuff. Apparently, they're all Drake and Kanye both staying in some fancy skiing hotel over there under fake names. But like with social media, and now that people know you're there, like they can't hide anymore. But like the first Team Kanye Daily pictures was just like kids, like 16-year-old kids taking pictures with Kanye on the street. And like it didn't look like he was actually hiding that hard, because Kanye's an imposing guy, he could hide, But
I think the fake names are just for booking the rooms. I think they call up so that like no one's like, yo, Kanye West booked a room for these dates, and paparazzi are there when they get there.
Yeah, But and like now what it is if anybody music related posts a picture and there's like snowy mountains in the background, people are like, we know where that is, So crazy. I mean, now everyone's teasing and stuff. Mike Dean was tweeting at the Kanye Daily account, so it's the whole thing at this point. But really exciting. So we'll probably hear something next year.
Yeah, someone that I was actually thinking could really benefit from being on a Kanye track. Your guy Bishop Nehru. Did I say that right? Nehru?
Yeah. Yep, that's right.
Yeah. His so he dropped his album Elevators Act 1 and 2, which was K Tronada produced for the first half and then Doom produced for the second half. I was very interested in this guy because when I was reading up on him, it said that he's been making raps and like kind of anointed to be this next huge rapper since he was 13. It's fucking crazy, dude. And the album was good, not great. And I kind of want to hear your take on it, but what I left with, which is really interesting, is though this guy spits, I just wanted another K Tronada and a Doom album. Like I just wanted to hear that more than I wanted to hear anything more from him. What was your take?
I think that's an important place to start, is just his age. He's only 21, but he released his first official mixtape 5 years ago when he was 16. And having someone break out in hip hop at 16 isn't that rare, especially nowadays with SoundCloud rap. But to have someone still be around and people still paying attention to after 5 years is actually impressive.
Yeah.
And he has the MF Doom co-sign. He's had it for a while now. Him and Doom released a collaborative EP, Nehruvian Doom, back in 2014. And Doom is obviously a very enigmatic figure. Mad Villainy, a classic album. On the other hand, he's made some weird choices, but he doesn't give out his cosign. So I think that really does mean a lot. And of course, getting K Tronada to produce half the records, really good too, considering how hot and in demand he is these days. But the album, I agree with you. It's good, not great. I think he definitely spits, and it's at the end of the day, it's just like really good jazz rap. And anyone who is put off by trapping or doesn't like the overbearing materialism that you find in a lot of rap, you need to listen to people like Bishop Nehru, because they offer something completely different within hip hop. And artists like him, obviously, they're not as marketable and they don't get as famous. And even Bishop Nehru, he's like internet known, but he hasn't blown up or anything. He's just like been on DJ booth for years now. At this point, people just know who he is and they listen to him. They know he's good. You gotta have to seek those guys out if that's what you're looking for. But yeah, I mean, it would be great if he could get a little more of a push, just because I think he's ready. I actually liked his last mixtape a little more than this. It's pretty recent. It came out last December. It's called Emperor Nehru's New Groove, and it's like samples from the Emperor's New Groove, like in the mixtape. And that was like a mixtape with like probably 15 tracks, but I didn't think there was much fat on it at all. And there's a lot of songs I really like and I like to go back to.
Mhm.
But he's definitely an artist to pay attention to, and I'm sure a lot of people have no idea who he is, which makes sense. And he's also he's from close to where you live. He's from Rockland County, Nanuet.
Shout out Rockland County. You know who I was actually thinking of when I was listening to him was kind of like Lupe Fiasco.
Sure.
Like someone who's just can write really great rhymes, very clever, and isn't really like that trap sound, more of a jazzy or instrumental type feel to the backing. I think he's very promising, but it's interesting to listen to someone like him and then listen to XXXTentacion.
Yep.
Which, I mean, totally different vibes in these albums. So this is XXX. I'm just gonna call him X, right?
Yeah, people call him X. Yeah.
X. So this is X's second album after he
Correct.
dropped 17 last year, which we reviewed. Go to YouTube and check out our breakout for that. If you're an XX or if you're an X fan coming here and you want to go hate on Dave, he ripped the album apart. Spoiler alert. So
it was bad, dog.
So was question mark any better for you?
Short answer, yes, is better. I think it's pretty obviously better. 17 was a whopping like 22 minutes, and this one is like what, 40 minutes or something. But
I think it's like 33.
Yeah, but it's got a lot of tracks, but similar theme is they're all a minute and 40 seconds to 2.5 minutes. There's only two songs over 3 minutes long on the whole record. And what stood out to me was the mix is a lot better. Some of the songs just sounded like shit on 17, but X is such an interesting guy, just because he's so fucking popular and so famous, despite like kind of his like come up. He first bust on the scene with his song "Look at Me," which has since gone platinum. But that was the song, that was the flow that Drake ripped off on the song on More Life with Gigs,
right?
KMT, right? And that's where that whole beef started, right? And since then, X is incredibly popular with young like Gen Z kids. I'm sure some are watching right now, and they really love this dude. And that's despite the fact that he's currently on house arrest for some pretty gross domestic violence charges. Now, I mean, I and many people were judging him hard last year when he was pretty unremorseful about the way he was going about his business. I mean, I know DJ Booth even refused to even review 17. Just because we're not going to support that. But he was an XXL freshman last year, and there was a lot of violence at his shows and stuff. But since then,
he got knocked out on stage, right?
Yeah, that was where his beef with Rob Stone happened, because Rob Stone basically was like, "Nah, I ain't fucking with this shit. I'm just gonna have someone knock you out." And so you go to Rob Stone videos now, and you'll see mad thumbs down because all the X fans are coming to hate in the comments, right? But yeah, anyway, since then, since he has been arrested and gotten more eyeballs on him, he's trying to turn his life around. I got to give him credit. I mean, he partnered with the Miami Children's Institute, and he's been talking to kids and stuff.
He made a pretty big donation to domestic violence too.
Right. So you got to give him credit for that. Now, the message he has on his music is still, I think, pretty half-baked, pretty fake deep. He's all like, open your mind, third eye. Right. Like, it's like, all right, guy, like, you're not as deep as you think you are. Maybe you'll get there, but it's not that there yet. Right. So I'm kind of annoyed that like all these little kids like worship the dude, because it's not like he's telling them anything. But that being said, his music's all over the place. Emo-y, some trapping, some cloud rap. What'd you think? Because there's a lot of genres on question mark.
Yeah, I mean, it jumps from like folky acoustic to jazz to like new metal at times. It's kind of crazy. Sure. When I was listening to this, I just thought that this is like his pure id, basically. Like, he makes albums the way that if you didn't have anything to control you, you would just like throw the stuff out, which is probably why he connects so well with teenagers, is he's complete emotion. Sure. Now, how deep that emotion goes, like you said, is questionable, and a lot of the songs I wasn't really moved by any of them, or didn't find
it's like an unfinished idea that he just he mixed and put on the album anyway.
But it's interesting to think about someone like Yachty and then someone like XX or X, because Yachty, like we talked about last week, he he was the king of the teens, and then he turned 20 and he finds his new identity. And basically, it's like, I'm rich, you're not. X is just like, this is everything I feel. I'm just going to throw it out there and see what sticks. And I respect that more because he's at least trying to convey a feeling or express a feeling or an idea, especially like a song like Schizophrenia, where he talks about like mental health and his struggle with it. It's at least like talking about something, unlike Yachty.
Mhm.
So I give him some credit for that. Did all of it land? No. I think if I had to look at the songs that stood out, maybe like Sad, Numb, and Schizophrenia seem to be like the three that stood out to me.
Yeah, Sad was a lead single, and that immediately blew up as soon as he put it out. I think that one's going to be really popular.
But yeah, I mean, it was like almost jarring at times, like how it would go from so soft to like craziness. Is this? Do you think this is an artist that's going to have like a real long-term appeal, or is he like a flash in the pan? His fans are rabid.
That's the thing. He also does fucking numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Like we talked about how Yachty has had some modest sales totals, right?
Yeah.
Despite being incredibly famous.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking X, I mean, 17 did 88,000 first week and then stayed top 5 for a while. Him and Uzi were competing at that time. And then what do you call it? Question Mark's projected to go 125 this week. That's like on par with Bobby Tarantino too. You know, I mean, he's doing numbers. So I think these Loyals fans, they're going to be with him for a while at least, because he's one of the most famous and most popular of the SoundCloud era.
Yeah,
like it or not.
He gets some good people to work with him too. I mean, Joey Badass, Travis Parker, PNB Rock was on this as well. Mm-hmm. So it's not like people are shying away from him because of, well, actually, at least those artists aren't shying away from him. Yeah. I can't speak about other people due to this controversy.
I remember, Kendrick tweeted out when 17 came out, and The Weeknd tweeted a question mark the other day. You know, he's got some cosigns, even if Drake is not one of them.
Yeah,
and I think he's connecting with the young kids, and I mean, hopefully he can hone his pen game a little bit. But you know, he's going to be around. So you know, I think this album is, even for your morbid curiosity, jump in a little bit because the songs are short. Just understand what the hype is about.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we had that discussion about Valet last week and how his songs were short. It seems like that's the direction most of these people are moving towards. Mm-hmm. But definitely an intriguing figure publicly and musically that we'll be talking about for a while. Movie I don't think I'm going to be talking about for a while is Tomb Raider, dog. I mean, the queen, Alicia Vikander, stars as Lara Croft in this, and she is by far and away the best thing about it. But other than that, incredibly forgettable. And actually, when I was looking up the Rotten Tomato score for this, I was like, I bet it would be like a 37, 38, maybe even like a 40. It's a 50. 50 right now, which I actually said that's probably right.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it makes sense. 98 positive, 98 negative. The appeal is mixed. Yeah. Makes sense because, like you were saying, Vikander does a lot with a little in this movie. And I think I'm almost rooting for it to do well because I want to see a sequel, because I think at the end of the movie, there's potential. But this movie itself is very straightforward and doesn't really mess with any B plots, which I thought was commendable in terms of focus. But what that leaves you with is a movie plot that is incredibly overwrought with the daddy issues.
Yep.
And I'm not a guy who hates the daddy issues. Usually having a complicated dad is a fine part of character, especially an origin story, whether it's Rogue One, Molly's Game, or it's Batman, whatever it is, right? Yep. But I just felt like Lara Croft was really shortchanged here because everything about her character and all of her decisions were made regarding her dad. And she's supposed to be a strong, independent female character that's really inspiring, and it's great to watch her kick ass and shit, and she gets to a better place. But I just thought this origin just really like hampered her down, you know?
Yeah, I hadn't really thought too much about that. I think because none of the real emotional parts of the movie landed for me. I mean, I thought it was kind of stupid that her dad, first of all, was alive on this island.
Yeah, I was like, oh, she finally got away from the dad. The dad motivating her to go down on her first adventure and start the legacy. Fine, but then the dad's back. Right, you're not worried about like, come on, just let her go.
And Dominic West was, I mean, he was okay. But when he was like the old man on the island who's like,
it was hammy.
yeah, don't look. I was like, oh god, like I can't believe that this guy was McNulty and now he's doing this shit. Come on, dog.
Yeah.
You know, I, this movie only made 23.5 million. It lost to Black Panther at the box office, which shout out Black Panther, 5 weeks tying Avatar at the top of the box office for most weeks in a row. Pretty crazy. The appeal and the numbers that movie has done, but this movie's it's gonna be a huge loss for this studio.
Well, not necessarily, because it's actually doing incredibly well overseas. The movie's up to 128 million when you count worldwide.
It needs another 100 million to break even then?
Yeah, I'd probably need another 100 million. The budget was 94, which is, that's low end for a big blockbuster, but that's not cheap. And like you said, it didn't do great over here, and with Pacific Rim and Ready Player One coming, as well as the enduring receipts for Black Panther, it's not going to make a whole lot more here. It'll probably top out, under 50. So you got to hope that it does well overseas. It surprisingly got 41 million in China. So I mean, that's good. I want the money to get there so they can try and
make another
continue it, because I thought Alicia Vikander, someone we've called the Queen lovingly for a while because she's such a great performer and I love watching her act.
Yeah,
she does, like I said, she does a lot with a little. She did a lot of her own stunts, evidently, but she's a great actress, and when given the opportunity, I think she can be really fun. We kind of saw her in The Man from U.N.C.L.E. in 2015, kind of in like a spy-ish movie, and I think she can tap into that again if she just actually fully becomes the Tomb Raider if given the chance.
Yeah, I was thinking about not only like this role for her, but just like her the direction for her in general. And obviously after the Danish Girl, she's moved in like a direction of doing some more commercial, which it makes sense. She wants to be marketable. She wants to be a huge star. I don't blame her. But I commend her, because unlike someone like Jennifer Lawrence, who's been in some bigger films and I think has kind of mailed it in, I feel like she never mails it in. Like everything she's in, she jumps off the screen. She fucking kills it. Now, this is also, I'm saying that after Jennifer Lawrence, who I'm comparing her to, was fucking great in Red Sparrow, where she very well could have just mailed it in and she didn't. So I give her props for that. But Vikander, I almost don't want her to be in another Lara Croft movie, because it just feels like these video game movies are too hard to make legitimately good. I'm not sure if I know why that is. Do you have any theories around that?
And that's the thing. Tomb Raider itself doesn't feel like a video game movie to me. It's just an adventure story. You can totally make this a good movie if you just probably had a more talented guy behind the camera and maybe worked on the script a little bit. I thought some of the dialogue in Tomb Raider was a little simple, like, these traps aren't supposed to keep us out, and all the audience is like, they're supposed to keep you in, like, and I mean the plot itself was very predictable, which is fine. It's an ordinary story. I think I haven't even said this yet, but I think overall, for what it was, an actiony movie, it's perfectly entertaining. But this could have been a lot better, and I think that's the problem with video game adaptations, is we're always wanting them to be better than they end up being.
Right.
But yeah, to your point about Vikander, if she was to avoid more franchisey stuff, yeah, that'd be cool. I mean, last year, I haven't seen it yet, but she was in Tulip Fever with Christoph Waltz and Dane DeHaan, a movie that has like a 9 on Rotten Tomatoes. It's totally loathed, but I really want to see what she does in the movie, because I love her performances. But yeah, there's nothing on her calendar right now. We don't know what her next project is. So, after this press tour, maybe she'll sign on to something.
Actually, I want to disagree with you real quick. I felt like at parts, it felt very much like a video game. Like when she was on the boat and it was crashing, it was like, how is she going to get from there to there? Oh, she has to climb across like the thing overhead. Okay. True. And then there was like the part where she was running away from Walton Goggins' henchmen, and she jumps in the river, and then she gets on the
plane
airplane, and she's like, okay, I have to go here. Now I have to do this. Now I have to do that. It was parts, it was kind of like, all right, it's kind of like A, B, C, D, press the B button, put the right stick up,
Well, and I mean, that actually does kind of make sense, because this was based off of the story was based off the 2013 Tomb Raider reboot game from Crystal Dynamics. I mean, that climbing actually has at the end. It looks exactly like the climbing actually used in the game, for example. The thing with the ship happens in the game. And there's actually a new Tomb Raider game coming out this year, so maybe we'll have more material. But yeah, I mean, I was thinking again about every time a video game movie comes out. I mean, we did this recently with Assassin's Creed in 2016, which is fucking horrible. That's the thing. I don't think Tomb Raider is bad at all. I think it's okay for what it is, which explains the middling reception. But every time, we have all these big franchises and people get attached to them. Like, remember Tom Holland is apparently going to play Nathan Drake from Uncharted. Remember when we talked about that? No, nothing since. I mean, Peter Jackson was attached to Halo for a while. Then Neil Blomkamp was. BioShock has had a bunch of scripts written, allegedly. Gears of War, etc. Everything, but nothing ever seems to work. And I don't know what the problem is. I just feel like I'm still. I think a lot of the stories in video games for those big stories could be done as movies. They just don't have a good enough people doing it. I don't know what the reason is. Maybe it is video games.
I had a couple of thoughts. I think one, if you're looking to get the same feeling you get when you play a video game, you're just never going to get it, because it's such a sense of accomplishment you get from a video game when you beat a level or you overcome something, you figure something out. But I think, and maybe this is the problem with this one. I also wonder, because we talked about why Black Panther was so good, and we said Michael B. Jordan. I mean, he was the best villain they've had. It made a lot of sense. It was thought provoking. Like, Walton Goggins in this movie was like apathetic. At least that's the way I felt in this role.
Yeah,
like
I agree.
I felt like he mailed this in, and I wonder if it's like, how good can a video game villain really be at the
right? And that actually brings up a point that I usually tend to agree with. That's been floated around a lot. Is that a lot of the best video game stories are usually just twists on movie stories, or would have just been better or better as movies. Like Uncharted is Indiana Jones, and The Last of Us is Children of Men. Like, there's pretty obvious analogs for a lot of the good video game stories,
right?
And also, like, even ones that don't have obvious analogs, are those stories good enough to make it into a show or into a movie? You have to actually think about that. Stories, I think stories go farther in games when they're good than they would on screen. So I think not you need to do a lot of work if you want to really make it into a show, because you might have to straight up improve the story. It's not a straight up adaptation, because you're straight up adapting the story. It's probably going to be kind of like what we got in Tomb Raider. It's fine, but when you compare it to any other kind of movie, even in that genre, it doesn't really hold up.
Yeah. It's too bad too, because if you think about Tomb Raider and when it's coming out, with all the groundswell that there was around like Wonder Woman, this had the recipe to be like a huge hit and such a meaningful movie for women and feminism, and by just kind of tying her up in the daddy story, like you said, and it just kind of it could have been more, and it just isn't. So maybe I'll get another shot, and it could be. We'll see.
Right. And that's the thing too. When Tomb Raider was rebooted recently with the Crystal Dynamics games, Lara Croft didn't have the ridiculously large breasts that she had back in the day in the old games, where it was just straight up being objectified and sexualizing Lara Croft. So like they took back the character and made her into an icon for strong women. And I just wish the movie could have been better to continue that, because Vikander, she got fucking swole as shit for this movie, and she's a great actress. It was all on the table. It just didn't totally get there.
Yeah, I saw people on Twitter talking about how Lara Croft isn't big breasted enough in this movie, and someone took a picture of Vikander, was like, I fixed it, and they made her breasts like pointed like they were in the original video game when they were huge, and he was like, hey, is this what you want to see? Like, it's such a ridiculous like storyline, and it like just sexualizes a character that's supposed to be like a badass strong woman. Like it's disheartening sometimes, but maybe like I said, maybe they can get another shot to make it right. Speaking of strong protagonists, though, how about this show Collateral on Netflix?
Hell yeah!
So it's a four episode miniseries from S.J. Clarkson. First premiered on BBC Two in Europe.
Yeah, just last month. It was just on over there.
Oh, so it's very recent. It stars Carey Mulligan as Detective Gillespie, and she kind of is thrown into this whodunit about this pizza man who's killed. He's I'm trying to think. Is he Iranian?
He's Syrian.
Syrian, that's what he's Syrian. And the show kind of goes off into a bunch of different directions. a lot of people are talking about this show right now, and there's a couple of aspects to it. There's the shortness of it only being 4 episodes of people like there's the fact that it's really well acted and really well written and really well done.
Yep.
But I think the aspect that's most intriguing is the political side of it, and we're only going to talk, I think, about the first like 2 or 3 episodes, so we're not even going to really get into spoilers today. But what have you liked about the show so much, or have you liked it? I guess.
No, you nailed it. I think it's the setting, the tone of the film. There's a show rather. It's post-Brexit, contemporary England,
Yep.
and as Americans, we can kind of relate to the themes of nativism and xenophobia and issues with immigration and the legal immigration, stuff like that. Bias towards people from the Middle East. I mean, a lot of that we understand as Americans, but seeing like the British twist on that, I think is pretty great, because, like you said, the writing is so strong. And you said it was a whodunit, but it really isn't a whodunit, because by the end of the first episode, you know the identity of the killer. It's more of a whydunit.
Yeah.
Frankly, I find way more interesting. As a 4-episode miniseries, they don't have time to plot around and play with the mystery aspect. It's really more about the themes, which frankly is more interesting. I think this is definitely a show that should be on the top of people's list to watch, because it's very easy to watch at only 4 hours, but also because it's not just in the class of it's really good, or it's in the hall of very good. This is actually great, because writing, the themes, the setting, everything it's unique, but it's not fucking Law and Order. It's better than that. It's bigger than that.
Yeah, and I think one of the things with the writing that's really impressive is how there's so many different relationships that are interwoven. It's almost like everybody is connected in some way, and like just by chance they seem to all be connected, but it doesn't feel like it's like too much like, oh, how would they ever know each other? It's like, well, it makes sense that person would know that person, and it's connected. They also, Glaspie kind of being the person that moves the plot along and the tying factor between a lot of these people. She also is like a strong female, protagonist or plot driver, who very easily could have been someone that they throw into this like troubled detective role. But
yes,
she's like a satisfied mother who has a good relationship, but just really likes her work. Like,
right.
Fuck it.
Yeah. I mean, she's a lot like Marge in Fargo.
Yeah.
The movie. I mean,
exactly.
They are both pregnant. That's an obvious thing, but the characters are similar. And I mean, I haven't seen Top of the Lake, but I've seen that she's also being compared to Robin, Elizabeth Moss's character from Top of the Lake as well. And like you said, it's not the difficult detective that is carrying something deep in their chest, like fucking Rust Cole on True Detective, Which we like those characters, but it was done a lot the same way the difficult man in a drama was done a lot, with, Draper and Walter White and stuff. Yeah. So seeing a little different twist on that, which is good and goes a long way. And I mean, we spoke to the writing. This was created and written by David Hare, someone whose work I'm not really that familiar with. He's really most well known for his West End theater work over in England, but he does have 2 Best Adapted Screenplay nominations, most recently for The Reader back in 2008. So he's a talented dude, and it really shows. He actually did theater work with Carey Mulligan before, so I think that probably got her on the show, because she's really the only star of note. Everyone else is a lot of British talent that hasn't really done a whole lot of really high notable stuff. But I think that the writing really makes it strong, and like you mentioned that everyone's really connected. I think if the writing wasn't as strong, the like suspension of disbelief would kind of get in the way. Because London's a big city and a lot of people are really connected, and it could have made it feel small if the story wasn't actually being told in such a strong way.
Yeah, definitely. It's worth watching, and if you have a gap in your Netflix, which I mean, shout out to you if you don't make it to watch on Netflix at this point. But yeah, put it at the top of your priority list to watch. We'll be revisiting it with some final thoughts in the future, maybe next week or the following week, depending on how things fall. Anything else you want to talk about this week that we didn't get to?
I think that's really it for what has happened this week. I know next week, or so Friday, Jack White's 3rd solo album, Boarding House Reach, comes out. I know some of those singles have been really well received. Some have been kind of weird. So I think this album is definitely going to be interesting. That's for sure. I'm looking forward to that. On the movie front, Pacific Rim Uprising, the second Pacific Rim film, is coming out. No Guillermo del Toro this time, but John Boyega is in. So that's a movie that I'm going to see because I think it'll deliver on what I'm asking for it. I want to watch dudes in mechs fight big monsters. And I think it'll achieve that, check that box for me. So
I think so too.
Yeah. And then, so Isle of Dogs, Wes Anderson's ninth film movie we're very excited for, is going to be in very limited release this weekend. And we're going to try and see it. We're not promising that we'll get to it, but I want to get to it as soon as possible. So we'll talk about that. And then Sunday, 3 shows of note are coming out. Billions on Showtime, and that's not a show we watch, but it's pretty popular. Trust on FX from Danny Boyle. That's basically all the money in the world movie story about the Getty kidnapping in a show. Brendan Fraser's in it, and Donald Sutherland is playing the Christopher Plummer role as John Paul Getty. And then Silicon Valley is back as well on Sunday on HBO, the first season since TJ Miller left. So I'm interested to see what the energy on that show is like since Miller is gone.
Yeah, it was interesting because I listened to a podcast that had Jin Yang on it, and he talked about how TJ Miller was awesome to him, and he really gives a lot of his uprising as a comedian to him. And then the Jim said that, you know, he was very disinterested, difficult to work with, falling asleep on set. So it'll be interesting to see how they move forward and move on with the show. But now Silicon Valley, you got to watch regardless of if TJ Miller's there or not.
Yeah, I know we kind of criticized season 4 for some wheel spinning. Yeah, but even if the narrative is wheel spinning, the show's still fucking funny. So it's not like I'm gonna check out of the show or anything. So I'm happy it's back.
So we got a couple of things to talk about next week, and I'm sure way more will come up. But in the meantime, if you have thoughts, if you want to tell us which video game movie you want to see or what could make a video game movie better, comment on our breakouts. Interact with us on Twitter at Nowstalgia Pod, at Martin Swagger, at Sheeny World Peace. And like I said at the beginning of the show, share with friends, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and give us a rating and review on iTunes. That helps us out immensely, and we appreciate you. Any last thoughts, Dave?
Nah, man. Go watch Collateral. No excuses.
Yeah, go watch Collateral and check out that Elevators Act 1 and 2. I really appreciate that album. All right, we'll catch you next week.